Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you guys about this neat little feature called class descriptors that not many people fully utilize. These descriptors are like the experts at managing how attributes function within our classes. Welcome back guys to another episode of PyPod Chronicles.
Welcome to PyPod Chronicles, a series that brings our tech blog to life in a whole new way. Covering an array of topics surrounding Python and tech, from programming tips, best practices, and so much more. Let's get immersed in Python with the Nerd Nook on the go.
So what exactly are class descriptors? Well, we're going to explore this in today's episode. I'm going to explain what they are and how you can maximize their use to provide you with real-life examples, along with plenty of code to demonstrate just how great and helpful they can be. Guys, do me a favor before I dive into today's episode. On whatever platform you're listening to this on, if you could click the like button, restack, right? That helps this podcast just reach more people. And if you like free resources, head down to the link in the description on whatever platform you're on. That's where all my resources are for you guys. My weekly Python newsletter, free courses, all my handcrafted guides, and so much more. Head down, check that out, share this with your friends, read the newsletter, all that fun stuff. All right, back to it. So in today's episode, it's all about getting to know this powerful tool and see how it can make your Python code even better. Now, class descriptors are like cool tools that help us control how pieces work inside our class. Think of these descriptors as these little objects, these clever little objects in Python that have special abilities. These special abilities are methods like get, set, and delete that kick in when you're trying to do stuff with attributes. These methods let us step in and say, hey, when someone tries to get this attribute, here's what should happen. Or when they try to set it, changing it, here's how we want to handle it. Alright, that's really what a descriptor is. In these descriptors, we use those dunder methods, double underscore methods, get, set, delete. Now, there's a few different types of class descriptors. There are descriptors that implement both get and set methods, enabling read and write access to attributes. We have non-data descriptors, so these are descriptors that only implement the get method, and this restricts attribute modification. And then finally, we have overriding descriptors, and just as the name suggests, you can override attribute access in both instances and classes. So as we go through today's episode, I'm excited that I get to be the one to break this all down for you guys. And if you want to dive into my full-length breakdown article, head down to the link in the description. Alright, so let's talk about access control. I need you guys to imagine, just picture you're the manager of a glitzy Four Seasons resort, and you want to make sure only certain guests can access certain areas. That sounds like something Four Seasons would do. That's kind of what class descriptors do. They help us set up rules and constraints for accessing attributes in our code. Now, Josh, why is this helpful? Well, think of it this way. Let's say you're working with a big project with a team of devs. You'll want to make sure everyone follows the same rules when it comes to accessing and modifying data within the code. So class descriptors let you define those rules and make sure everyone sticks to them. And it involves a couple steps. First, we need to define a descriptor class. This is where we put all the special methods like get and set. So, speaking of defining a descriptor class, let's talk about that, because it's not actually as complicated as it may seem. To make a class descriptor, we just need to define a special class with a few special methods. So imagine you create a class called reversed string. You create your constructor with a single property, value. Then we create two dunder methods. I create a get and a set. Inside the get method, we are returning the reversed version of the string value, and inside the set method, we are setting the value to its reversed form. We assign a value to this class, and Python automatically calls the set method to this descriptor class. And this method reverses the given string and stores it. If you guys want to see this code, right, it's in the article. So class descriptors allow us to define these special classes with specific methods, and then we can use them in our code to do cool things like reversing strings or controlling how attributes work, right? There's a lot to it. This reverse string one was an analogy I thought we could all understand. Class descriptors can be applied to individual attributes within a class to customize their behavior. This allows for us to encapsulate and ensure that attribute access is controlled according to the defined logic. If you guys want to see a different, slightly built-out version using the delete method, I'll leave that in the description. Let's keep in mind some best tips. So keep these class descriptors simple. While descriptors offer immense flexibility, it's crucial to keep them simple and focused on a specific task to enhance the readability. Okay? Document how these descriptors work thoroughly. You should be leaving comments and doc strings to explain in great detail what this is. So when you come back to it later or someone else comes back to it, everyone's going to be able to know what it does. And then make sure you test these, right? Write unit tests, these blocks of testing code to check your class descriptors. We have a few use cases for these guys. So when should you use class descriptors? Well, that's a great question. Let's start off with the first one, validation and data transformation. One common way to use class descriptors is for data validation and transformation. This means we can make sure that the data going into our attributes follows certain rules. And we can also change the data to fit a specific format if needed. Descriptors are great for setting rules on attribute values. So, for an example, you can make sure that an attribute only takes whole numbers, or you could convert the input data into a particular style to match what you need, right? I'm mentioning validation here, right? If you're working with Flask or Django, there's validation in its finest. Another use case for these is lazy evaluation. Now, I know as developers we are lazy, but class descriptors can be employed to implement lazy evaluation. This concept involves calculating the value of an attribute only when it's first accessed. This approach can help us improve performance and manage our resources more efficiently. But in reality, this just means the actual value of an attribute is only computed when it's first requested, rather than being calculated immediately. This is really beneficial for operations that are resource intensive. We calculate it once, we store its value, we use it later. Okay? The last one I'm going to leave you guys here with when it could be useful is attribute caching. Okay, so descriptors offer a neat way to cache attribute values, which helps us really boost the performance, kind of like in lazy evaluation. Caching is a smart strategy when it comes to complex computations because we can store them for later, which just saves time and resources. And we can just create descriptors that can easily set up caching mechanisms without too much hassle. Okay, so I've kind of addressed, guys, why we use them, right? Take a moment. Why do we use class descriptors? Okay, not only do they promote encapsulation, right? So this allows us to manage our logic, define our logic. We can also have customized attribute access, allowing us to implement custom behaviors tailored to our app's needs. And then this enhances the readability, okay? So the key takeaway is it's really access control. A class descriptor is access control. In a real world, when and where would you use these, right? Like, what's a real world scenario? Okay, so, we could do things with ORM, like in databases, so object relational mapping. And class descriptors could play a crucial role in linking Python objects to database entities, making sure that the data in between is converted correctly. We could use them for property binding. So anytime you're working in GUI programming, we could have a descriptor that could be used to link properties of the UI elements to the underlying data models. And then lastly, right, was caching mechanisms, where time-consuming calculations are done just once, then the results are saved for later. All right, so experiment with these, right? A class descriptor. You build a class. You can use get, set, and delete attributes. And if you guys want this broken down even more, head down to the link in the description. That's where the full article is. So, guys, wrapping up today, what is a Python class descriptor? This is a fundamental tool in object-oriented programming, providing us developers with a sophisticated way to manage how attributes are accessed within their class. By crafting custom get, set, delete methods, we can finally control attribute handling. This allows for enforcing validation rules dynamically, transforming data, implementing lazy evaluation to boost our performance, and precisely managing access permission. Right? That was fun. Guys, that's all for another episode of PyPod Chronicles. If you guys enjoyed this, do me a favor and like it on whatever platform you're listening on. Until next week's episode, I will see you then.